Born in 1764, George White was an African-born, enslaved-to-free Methodist exhorter whose 1810 memoir is among the earliest black Methodist life stories. Sold in Virginia and Maryland and freed in his mid-20s, he moved north, working in Philadelphia and New York while feeling called to preach. White's narrative blends visions, revival scenes, and recognition within Methodism, including a license renewal at New York's Quarterly Conference in 1808. As an itinerant evangelist, he traveled across Long Island, through New Lots and Newtown, holding meetings and testifying to faith amid racism. White wrote passionately about the spiritual geography he mapped while visiting Newtown in his 1810 book, A Brief Account of the Life, Experience, Travels, and Gospel Labors of George White, an African, written by himself and revised by a friend. According to White, after my return from Woodbridge, I visited Newtown and Flushing on Long Island and the adjacent villages, preaching at every place where I came, and the Lord was among the people in power and gave us melting and reviving seasons. At Newtown, likewise, I had a good time in preaching to a people in whose hearts I believe the Lord has effected a gracious work. The next morning, being Sabbath, the White brethren having no preaching that day, I applied to one of the trustees for the privilege of the meeting house, but was at first refused, being told that I had no authority to preach, or at least that if I had any, it was only verbal, and that he had been so informed by a colored friend from New York. But on showing him my license, under the signature of the presiding elder, the objection was removed, and the use of the pulpit granted me. We had a gracious manifestation of the presence and power of God, and after preaching I met the classes of both white and colored people and found them happy in the Lord. Thus I have found that, although I have been rejected by some, opposed by others, and suspected by more, that by putting my trust in God and obeying His will under all these trials, infinite goodness has caused all events to turn to my account at last, which encourages me with patience and resignation to follow Christ through all the conflicts of the Christian warfare. White also describes the racist hostility that greeted him at the outskirts of Newtown in what is now Forest Park. I was appointed to preach in the woods, a little south of Newtown, on Long Island. But before I went to the place where the people were assembling for meeting, the friends told me that a company of ill-disposed people had collected for the purpose of attacking me on the ground. However, I went to the place of appointment, with no other weapons for my defense but the Christian armor, willing to hazard my life thus panoplied. The congregation was large, and the exercises attended with great power. The people of God were filled with joy and comfort, and many who were hitherto strangers to God were awakened and converted. While I was speaking, the company of opposers approached the place of worship. I raised my voice as high as possible in order that they might hear me, and cried with all my might, "Satan is near the camp," and exhorted all present who loved the Lord to unite in prayer that the designs of the enemy might be defeated. They immediately halted, took their seats upon a fence at a little distance, where they continued for a while, like men confused and ashamed, and then retired, mimicking each other, and left us to God and ourselves to proceed in our devotions without disturbance. The wrath of man shall praise the Lord, and the remainder will He restrain. His Newtown scenes, meeting house and woodland alike, show how he turned suspicion into fellowship and menace into testimony, leaving a brief but resonant record of the way Newtown was split during the 1800s.